What's going on, everyone? So one of the big factors for the Lakers in the bubble year was Rajon Rondo. His IQ, his ability to play make for others, his ability to be playoff Rondo, his ability to just kind of control and orchestrate games was massive. And before that year, there was a lot of questions about Rajon Rondo, right? Like playoff Rondo always kind of was a thing, but many people thought Rajon Rondo was washed up. He wasn't performing and delivering the way that he once did. Even that season for the Lakers, he wasn't really great for the Lakers. But he was a veteran guy that worked and made sense and was like a leader and just another kind of just high IQ extension of the coach. And that was massive. That really helped the Lakers throughout the course of the regular season. But he wasn't he wasn't playoff Rondo during the regular season. He was at times even unplayable. And Frank Vogel on many occasions didn't even play him, right? Because he struggled. But when the playoffs came, he was the guy. But it was more than just playoff Rondo. Again, it was his ability to play make. It was his ability to be an extension of the coach. It was somebody that LeBron trusted with the basketball, which was massive, which allowed Rondo to kind of do his thing and play make for others and get things involved. And the more that I think about Rondo and the more I think about what does this Lakers team really need, right? Because the Lakers very likely could lose Dennis Schroeder. And I like Dennis Schroeder. And if the Lakers can keep Dennis Schroeder, then sure. But if the Lakers have better options, I don't mind that. But the more and more I think about it and the more and more I dwell on it, the more that I think Chris Paul makes a world of sense. Now, a couple things, right? One, the Lakers aren't going to go trade for Chris Paul. So don't take this as why would the Lakers trade for Chris Paul? They're not. That's not what this is about. I did a video about Chris Paul before, and I talked about how, man, if Chris Paul gets bought out, should the Lakers pursue him? And it was kind of just an initial thought that I made a video, and many people agreed, yeah, do that. But there was a lot of people that did disagree and were like, nah, I don't like the idea of Chris Paul. He's old, he's washed, he's this, he's that. But I think those people are missing the point and the value that Chris Paul would bring. Because again, the more that I really think about this, the more I'm like, that would be perfect. So if Chris Paul was to come to the Lakers, very likely he's not starting for the Lakers. He's very likely going to have to come off the bench. Maybe if the Lakers end up trading D'Angelo Russell or something like that, maybe he starts and you have Chris Paul with Austin Reeves, LeBron, Vando, and Anthony Davis or whatever, right? Okay, that's fine. But even if he does start, he's not going to play heavy minutes. And he's not going to need to be heavily relied on. The problem with the Phoenix Suns is that Chris Paul plays 30 to 40 minutes per game. He, up until they got Kevin Durant, was the number 2 player on that team, him and Devin Booker. So he had to do so much heavy lifting. On the Lakers, he doesn't have to do any of that. He just plays the Rajon Rondo role. And now some people might think, why would the Phoenix Suns ever let him go to the Lakers? Phoenix doesn't care about him going to Lakers. What is going to happen with Chris Paul? Very likely. I am very confident that this happens one way or another. Either A, they find a trade for Chris Paul and get some assets in return, and they go that approach. And the possibility of whoever trades for him ends up buying him out because he's a partial guarantee. He doesn't have a full guarantee on his contract. So it could be very likely, say a team like the Charlotte Hornets, if let's say they draft Scoot Henderson, then they don't have any need for a Terry Rozier. So they may say, we'll trade you Terry Rozier and his 3 years left on his contract for Chris Paul. We'll waive Chris Paul and Chris Paul can go wherever he wants. And then that's where he could go to the Lakers. Or the Phoenix Suns cannot find a trade for Chris Paul, and then they waive Chris Paul because they need to build a team around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. That's why the Phoenix Suns gave Chris Paul a partially guaranteed deal this year, and then next year he has a non-guaranteed deal. So Chris Paul's time with the Phoenix Suns is very likely done. He got hurt again in the playoffs. That became a problem. But here's the thing. If he was to come to the Lakers, he wouldn't be the second guy like he is on the Phoenix Suns, or in the case with Kevin Durant, the third guy. No, he would be like the fifth guy, because you would have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura. You'd have all these other guys that can carry the workload and the offensive load. Chris Paul just has to play 15 to 20 minutes a game as a facilitator, as a guy that can knock down shots here and there. It's a completely different Chris Paul than what you're going to get. The reason Rajon Rondo had so much success with the Lakers is because he didn't have to be that second or third guy like he was on like a Pelicans team or whatever, right? Like that was, or a Bulls team. That's the difference. He came to the Lakers and he was like the 6th, 7th best guy, or 6th, 7th most impactful guy, sometimes even less than that. So his impact was just that much greater. Chris Paul on the Lakers would be that. He would come in and he would be the 6th, 7th guy for the Lakers and put them in a real position to win an NBA championship. The difference is that Chris Paul is a better player than Rajon Rondo, even at this point in his career. He's still a guy that could go give you 15 a game and dish out 8 to 10 assists. He's still got a high IQ. He can still do a lot, but the pressure for him to have to deliver on a nightly basis is small. If we had Chris Paul in this playoff run over Dennis Schroeder, if we had Chris Paul even over D'Angelo Russell, we probably would have won and be in the NBA Finals right now. Because, again, Chris Paul is a guy that can facilitate, that can give you 15 plus a game, that still has that midi, all of that. Like, those are huge and important for the Lakers. The Lakers need guys like that. You would get him on a vet minimum contract, right? So it's low risk, high reward. Even if he gets hurt, again, he's the 7th, 8th, 9th guy. So it's like, okay, like it sucks that he got hurt, but he wasn't making $30 million like he is on the Phoenix Suns. He's making $1 million, right? So it's just like, okay, even if he did get hurt, okay, it sucks, but who cares? He is, even right now, even with all just the concerns and question marks with Chris Paul is worth more than a vet minimum deal. He is. He's worth far more than a vet minimum deal. But if he was to be bought out, that's all he's going to get is a vet minimum deal. So it comes down to, like, where is he going to go? Now, he could go elsewhere. He could want to go elsewhere. But it kind of feels like, one, it's that full circle moment, right? Of like, hey, I was always supposed to go to Lakers. Now's my chance. 2, he loved LA when he was with the Clippers. 3, his best friend's LeBron James. You don't think LeBron James is telling him, like, hey, dude, let's come to the Lakers. We were just in the Western Conference Finals. We add you to this roster. Like, you don't think we can win an NBA championship, right? And not just that, but now it gives you the ability to now trade a D'Angelo Russell or whatever if you need to, right? Because, I mean, one, you could always play Austin Reeves at the point guard. You could always have LeBron be the point guard. And then have Chris Paul come off the bench. Or you could have Chris Paul start. And then can you trade D'Lo for a nice little package? You know, go get maybe some shooting or something like that. Like if the Lakers could get Chris Paul, that would be just beautiful. Beautiful. I don't think it's unrealistic at all. Because again, Phoenix has to do something. Phoenix has to. Because, one, the new CBA makes it to where if they don't, they're not going to be able to for the future. And then Chris Paul and Ayton and Kevin Durant and Devin Booker are probably never getting out of the second round because they're not going to be able to build a competent team. Secondly, they don't need Chris Paul because the Suns were best with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant handling the ball. Kevin Durant was also like the best pick and roll player in the league last year. So it's best to have the ball in those two guys' hands at this stage because they're the guys that are doing everything. They're the two guys that are the primary ball handlers, the higher usage guys, right? So they don't really need Chris Paul. His money is a hindrance and hurts the Phoenix Suns. So very likely they are going to have to either trade him or waive him because they don't have the ability to go and sign other guys. Ayton and Chris Paul are the only options that they have to retool and put together a better team for Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So Chris Paul is going to end up being the odd man out. So he's either going to get traded to a team that buys him out, or the Phoenix Suns buy him out, more likely than not. Now, maybe he gets traded to like a Milwaukee or something like that, but why? Again, no team. What team is going to trade for him to keep him with his contract? Nobody, right? It's going to be a team that has players that they want to unload because they have longer term salaries. And it's like, well, we have, like I said, a Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier has 3 years left on his contract. We want to get off of his contract. So because we have to pay Bridges and we have to pay Washington and, we're going to have to pay Ball again at some point. Like, we need that salary. We need that money. So let's take Chris Paul. Then we can waive Chris Paul and pay him, half of his salary. And then now we have that extra flexibility going forward for the next few years. That's what the situation's going to be. So Chris Paul going to the Lakers actually is a probable thing. I'm not saying lock it in, get ready for it, but out of like all the things that I think could happen this offseason, this is one of them. Like genuinely, this is one of them. If Chris Paul gets waived at any point this offseason, which very likely he will, I don't think he goes anywhere else other than the Lakers. There's maybe he goes back to the Clippers, but why when he could go play with LeBron and the Lakers? And he doesn't have to worry about, just all the mess going on with the Clippers, right? The Lakers were also just in the Western Conference Finals. You don't think Chris Paul still believes he's one of the best point guards players in the league? Of course he does. So he's probably looking at it as like, if I go to Lakers, man, we can win a chip. Me, LeBron, AD. Plus, he's always wanted to play with AD, or always wanted to play with LeBron. LeBron is stressed that he's always wanted to play with Chris Paul. I just think the stage is set at this point for that to happen. And so I think if Chris Paul ends up getting waived, he ends up going to the Lakers. Again, it's just, I know some people might be thinking like, this is the second time we've talked about this, but it's just because I really think it makes a world of sense. Like, the more that I think about it, the more that I dwell on it, the more I'm like, that's the move. That might be, like, that could be the difference between us winning a chip or not next year. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Agree, disagree, however you feel, let me know.